Look, it wasn't good. It was his worst performance as a Net, and it was the first time in his career that he's played at least 30 minutes and scored 4 points.
Mm-hmm. If someone said it was the worst game of his career, they would have an argument.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He was horrible. But I'm going to be honest, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to defend the Nets or my Nets pick. I'm hopeful because last night was the first time that I saw the outside noise, the off-the-court distractions, obviously of his own doing, affect Kyrie Irving's game. All right, usually he's able to play his game no matter what.
But that made you hopeful?
Here's why. And I was going to say, but all the times he's gone back to Cleveland, gone back to Boston, the first game back after the vaccination situation, he played well, put up big numbers. Last night, it really impacted him. It looked like the stress and the strain had finally gotten to him. And I'm hopeful because maybe my hope is that will lead him to do the right thing. Maybe, I don't know if he's seen, the NBPA, of which he's an official. They released this statement about him. I've talked to some ex-players who've talked to, one guy told me he talked to like a dozen ex-players, and all of them are like with Charles Barkley that Kyrie should be suspended or worse. Some or worse.
Shaq and Barkley
hit
him up.
Yeah. I don't know if he's seeing that he doesn't have the support that he thought he might have or what. I don't know what it is. Maybe he is stunned by the level of the way people are going at him. But my hope is that Kyrie will come out and I don't think he was trying to be harmful. I don't think he was trying to be anti-Semitic. I think he was trying to be pro-black. But pro-black is not synonymous with anti-white or anti-Jew. And I hope he comes out and apologizes for the anti-Semitic stuff that was in the documentary, the book that he promoted, and gets back to basketball and begins playing his game.
Can I tell you who doesn't believe that's what he's going to do? The Brooklyn Nets, because they're afraid to let him talk. The Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, once upon a time a voice for the voiceless, has now had his voice taken away from him by his own team because, in the words of the wisdom of Sean Marks, I think it's better for everyone for Kyrie Irving to not be able to speak to the media.
Do you think there's any part of that? I tried to find the most optimistic spin on that because I felt like that was an embarrassment to the Nets and the league as a whole, that maybe he's supposed to meet with the Anti-Defamation League and then that's when he'll come out.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, I'm trying to find.
Maybe, but here's what I know. We now have more than a half decade of evidence that Kyrie Irving either is in or goes to great basketball situations and lights them ablaze. We can go year by year by year. From the moment he walked off the court in the 2017 NBA Finals after they lost to the Golden State Warriors with Durant. Right. Here's what Kyrie has gone into the season with. Here's how it's ended. 2018, the Cavs are the preseason favorites to win the East. Second best title odds overall. Kyrie then demands a trade. He then misses the postseason with an injury, and his team, the Celtics, reach the conference finals without him. The very next season, he is with Boston, and what happens? The very next season, the Celtics are the favorites to win the East. They have the second best title odds. Kyrie Irving makes odd comments about the young guys throughout the year after saying he wants to be there forever. Right. And then as they lose 4 straight games, he melts down. He has 19 points per game while demanding to guard Giannis, shooting 30% from the field. The very next year, he goes to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, they were projected to be a top 4 seed, not champion, because KD was out. Their record actually gets worse. They finished below 500, and Kyrie skips the bubble entirely. The very next year, now KD is back, and the Nets are co-favorites to win the East, the second best title odds overall. Kyrie takes multiple leaves of absences, which, in some people's mind, is one of the reasons the Nets mortgage their whole future for James Harden, because they can't rely on Kyrie Irving to be there, and then in the second round of the playoffs, his body breaks down, he turns his ankle, he's not there. The very next season, the Nets are the overwhelming favorites to win the title. And Kyrie Irving submarines the entire thing by refusing to get vaccinated, being a part-time player, and then plays poorly in round 1, and they are swept. This year, the Brooklyn Nets have top 4 title odds. And 2 weeks into the season, He has created a firestorm via social media usage and the embarrassing press conference. His head coach is fired. The Nets are 2-6, and he's coming off a 4-point game. That is 6 years in a row of Kyrie Irving being in one of the best basketball situations imaginable. 5 of the last 6. Take out the Durant injury year, but he could have just stayed in Boston.
He was hurt the first year in Brooklyn, too.
He got hurt. He got hurt during the season. Yep. And nearly every single one of those years, it all goes terribly, and he is patient zero of it. Like, you are a smart guy. You also have a very empathetic heart, so I understand why you are hoping for the best outcome. But from a logical perspective, why on earth would you expect Kyrie Irving to act any differently than he has acted over the entirety of his NBA adult life?
Well, whether I expect it or not, if I'm the Nets, I don't know if you're asking should the Nets just cut him. I would keep him for sure. It's the last year. Now, if he doesn't handle this properly and this thing grows, the anti-Semitic situation continues to grow, then maybe you got a different situation. But assuming he handles it properly, I believe I would give it a shot without question because he's a great basketball player.
Is he, though?
Yes, he is.
But
there are a lot of guys that haven't won in this game. Pistol Pete Maravich never won.
Okay, no, I understand that, but
even came close.
But he has not had a significant impact on winning or a significant postseason moment outside of round 1 in 6 years.
Okay, but he's got one of the biggest shots in NBA history.
I'm not saying
and he averaged, 28 in that finals?
Yeah, but that was so long ago. It was
6 years ago.
Yeah, 6. That's
it's a long time.
That's a career for a lot of guys. But that's half a career for a great player.
I'm just saying he's still a great individual player. Now he's got to play winning basketball.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
But his teams aren't terrible. It's not like he's putting up these bad numbers on teams that don't even make the playoffs.
No, but like the Celtics were excellent without him. Mediocre with him.
Remember his first year there, they went 22-4, I believe.
Oh,
and then he got hurt.
Yeah, and they made the conference finals without him. And then he comes back, and they lose in 5 in round 2. And then he leaves, and 2 years later they're in the NBA finals. They're in the conference. They're 2 years later in the conference finals, and 3 years later they're in the NBA finals. Right. We don't have evidence that Kyrie Irving, without LeBron James there, is a winning player.
Okay, that's fair, but we could say that about a lot of players. How much evidence do we have about Paul George?
Okay, but the thing is, Paul George has never
He doesn't light the room on fire.
He has never destroyed a team.
Absolutely. If you want to talk about Kyrie's personality and his off-the-court distractions,
think through that, like, the chemistry of a team is what makes the team a championship team. Between the Draymond and Jordan Poole incident, we talked about, you know what, the team's culture is so strong, they'll be able to get over that. The opposite of that is the Brooklyn Nets, where they have multiple fires to put out, and we barely talk about basketball with the Brooklyn Nets. So the question I have for you is this. Suppose, and let's cross our fingers, that Kyrie meets with ADL and comes out and recognizes the error of his ways. Do you think he's going to pitch a perfect game from here on out?
Right. That's exactly. Go ahead.
I hope so. I mean, look, I thought he'd pitch a perfect game from day one this season.
But that was
right. And then this comes out.
That was silly. That's the part.
So you guys are saying right now the Nets should release Kyrie Irving.
I am saying that the Nets need to salt the earth and start over the way they needed to after the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett thing.
I agree.
It's over. It's done. And Bill Simmons reported today, I don't even know if he meant to report it, but said today on his podcast that prior to these tweets, the Nets were shopping Kyrie Irving. I think now there's probably no market. Real market for him. But this was the reason that, and we joked about it before there was this really ugly side of it after Kyrie's tweets, but of the next year Nets, the reason it was funny is because they always look good until Kyrie does the inevitable Kyrie stuff. Right. And I do think it's fair to call it inevitable. So you're right, like, What has Fred VanVleet shown he can win, except for when Kawhi Leonard's there, okay? You can say with a lot of people. But I know Fred VanVleet isn't going to all of a sudden cause a franchise, rocking embarrassment.
League rocking.
Look, if I can trade Kyrie Irving, which I agree with you, there's no market for him. But if I could trade him, I would. If I can't, assuming, like you said, Wildes, that he handles this thing correctly, then I'm playing him and seeing how it goes. And we're done with him next year. I hate to say it. This could be Kyrie's last year in the league. I think a lot of people think that's probable, unless they have this miraculous run and get to the finals or at least the conference finals or something, and he's like you said, pitches a no-hitter. But this could very easily be his last year in the league, and that's what I hope. Like I said, I hope the stress and strain wore him down last night, and that's why he scored 4 points. So he can there's nothing wrong with being wrong, okay, or making a mistake. Come out and own it and admit you made a mistake and change your ways. That's what he needs to do. Because he's playing for his basketball life.
Yes,
Nick.
but I don't think I think even if he recognizes that, he thinks that is because he is a martyr and being persecuted. My honest to God opinion of this, do I think Kyrie Irving is an anti-Semite? Absolutely not. Do I think it is more likely than not he didn't even watch that whole 3-hour movie?
Right.
Absolutely. And do I think that I believed him at the press conference? I was searching my name. I saw this. Seemed interesting. And then, like a lot of people we know, usually immature people in some measures, felt boxed in, and instead of folding their hand and being like, hey, guys, I got to tell you something. Everyone was mad at me about this. I wasn't even paying that much attention. I thought it was interesting. I'm very interested in African American and African heritage. I apologize. He felt boxed in, so he said, I'm going to punch my way out. Right. That's who he is, and I think this is one corner he's not going to be able to punch his way out.
He's not.
And I think the only option he has is to fold his hand, and he doesn't seem like a fold my hand type of guy, Wildes.
Right, well said. We're going to leave that there. We're going to talk Odell maybe going to the 49ers after the breaks. First things first.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.